want to start off first with just kind of going over what the mission is for Gifford County Schools. And it is to graduate as responsible citizens prepared to succeed in higher education or in the career of their choice. So this is very befitting for what we're going to share with you, given the vision for transforming our young people here in Gifford County Schools with transforming learning and life outcomes for all children. We have presenters and we have a team of individuals that's going to be helping with this presentation. Again, I'm Debbie Benton, the K through 8 counseling supervisor. We also have Dr. Clint Wilson, who is helping us with questions and answers. And he also is the high school counseling supervisor. And we have Star King, who is our coordinator for apprenticeship and internships and career technical education. Just to kind of go over a couple of rules, please, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. At the end, if you have questions, you can use the icon to raise your hand. And we're asking that until you will speak, if you could mute your microphone so that we don't pick up any of the feedback. So basically what we're going to do this afternoon is we're going to share with you two parts. One, Star King is going to share with you about career clusters, career matching, career options, and how all of that goes into what I am going to share with you, and that is called the College and Career Readiness Guides. Those guides were sent to your student's email address last Thursday and Friday. And so some of the information in this guide is going to be kind of just going over the background and the goals. We're going to talk about the guide, kind of give you a breakdown of the report design and the next steps of what and how these guides benefit you. And then Star King will kind of tell you how it all comes together. And then we will allow the Q&A at the end. So again, welcome to the College and Career Readiness webinar. And so the first thing is, what are these guides for? What is the goal of these readiness guides? One is to improve the understanding of readiness and pathways. What is the direction for my child as they move to high school and looking at their 4-year plan? The second goal is to bring clarity across the data that we collect from student information, the data points that we collect from the career clusters and the career options. It's also to improve the equity of access and success, knowing that what opportunities are here past high school for your child. And then provide actionable insights to students and families so that you can also be involved. So with your student actually going into high school, you being able to know all the opportunities that's available for your students, so that when you're choosing course selections and pathways and clusters, that it lines up so that it just opens doors of opportunity for your student after high school. And that's where it kind of piggyback off of the education and counseling, which you will receive as your student transition to high school. They work very closely with their school counselor. So the goal is to increase today college and career readiness, you gathering the information so that your child is ready to transition to such a big step, which is high school, to help you navigate through the high school and the college and career opportunities, and to inform and empower you so that when you're working with your child's counselor, you're able to ask the right questions and also understand some of the goals that they have set forth to go along with the college and career guides that they use as they develop the 4-year plan for your student. And so in these reports, and the report has about 7 different pages. And this is one of the pages, just kind of personalizing the whole report. It gives you the college options, your student interests, which Starkeen will talk about the top 3. It also kind of gives you the courses to take, the grades. When you start looking at some of the clusters or the pathways, it will give the student the job, the salary, and any data that is goes along with that particular cluster. So this is just kind of an overview and a personal insight of what is involved in the personalized college and career readiness guide. So here, the College and Career Readiness Guide, the reports help you to understand their readiness and their plan for their pathway. It looks at the performance and the readiness as it relates to your English, your math, your science, your social studies, your CTE courses, and also just kind of looking at those options and seeing what do we do next. And so in looking at some of the college and career guide impact and how it really just bring things home to where it is a great understanding and a great tool to help guide your student through high school. We looked at and gathered this data, and 94% of the students replied that they would like to receive the College Career Readiness Guide again, and how helpful it was for them to actually see it on paper. About 70% of the students plan to take a step as a result of receiving the college and career guides because it's in front of them. It's a plan. That plan can be adjusted at any time, but it is a map for post-secondary plans. It also, 75% of the parents did say that it was definitely a discussion and a talking point as they work with the student as well with the school counselors. And as a result of the college and career readiness guides, the students plan to research college, 50% search for scholarships. They talk to counselors. They register for the preliminary SAT, or ACT, and it also gave them an opportunity as they went through high school if they wanted to modify the plan. And so I think something really good that really stood out for me is just looking at some quotes and some comments below from some of the students. One student said, it taught me about college readiness and what I should do to follow my path to a further education. Another student said, it helped me, it gave me a good view of how competitive high school and colleges can be. And then as a parent, talk more intelligently with the counselors about plans. You know, a lot of times you're going to hear just like the acronym CCRG. We say CCRG, but it stands for College Career and Readiness Guide. So just learning the language as well. And so the College and Career Guides on February 4th, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of last week. Again, those guides were sent to your child's GCS email. Also, the guides will be sent out to the counselors starting tomorrow. So the counselor will also have a copy of the guide as well. And so, as I talked about earlier, these guides that you receive, it's about 7 different pages, and each page covers a different area of the guide. The first page is just a letter to indicate what is in the guide and just kind of giving you an overview of the guide and the contents that's in the guide. And then when you move over to one of the pages, this page here is very interesting because it's kind of like the action steps. You work hard, you're transitioning to high school, and how you start is very important. You know, you want to make sure that you're at school, whether it is face-to-face or virtual. You want to make sure that you stay focused and work hard and maintain your best grades and get involved and stay strong. And so when we look at this timeline, we're looking at middle school, which is where many of the students are now. They want to take the most challenging classes and will work with the school counselor, and the counselor will work with the student as well to create a 4-year plan, which kind of spells out 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And just note that that plan each year is adjusted. Student may decide a different pathway, or the student may decide, okay, I want to take some more rigorous course of study. And so that's what the guide is. What I'm going to do now is turn it over to Star King. She's going to kind of bring it home and bring it full circle for you so that you can connect the college and career readiness guides to career technical education.
Hey, great afternoon, everyone. I'm Star King, and as Debbie Benton mentioned, I am the coordinator of apprenticeships and internships working with CTE. And what I'd like to do first is make that connection as to what CTE, or more, why CTE? Why are we connected with counseling as it should have, as it always is? It's very, very important that we understand what we are trying to do for our students in CTE. As we prepare them for the high skill, high wage, or in demand careers, we know that their experience begins best when before they even get to school, with options. If you would, Debbie, go back to that previous screen, with options and exposure in pre-K. There's an awareness in elementary school, an exploration in middle school, as well as preparation in high school. And CTE equips these students for post-secondary education and immediate employment. So this is really important. And as we connect with counselors, because it is with counseling in the middle schools and with career advisors in the high school, is where the student gets the best support. Please go on to the next one, if you would. When we're talking about this college and career guide, it's an excellent tool to begin these conversations with students and counselors. And what was at one time called career and development coordinators, they are now career and college managers. Both are involved in the advisement of your student, particularly from grades 8 through 12. And so we ensure that the student has, it is very important that all of the students take a career assessment. We want to ensure that the students take these assessments because it provides a more customized plan or map for progression through school and in preparation for post-secondary. So the middle schools are, of course, advised by their counselors, and the high school students are advised by the career and college managers. The role is to coordinate those services for students participating particularly in CTE, and that's why this college and career guide is so great in terms of supporting what the students are doing now and preparing for what they will do in the future, post-secondary. What you see is a slide for North Carolina's 16 career clusters. Actually, this is nationwide, but we're focusing on North Carolina and what we're doing here. And we offer all of the clusters except for government and public administration. And that's what you see with the X in it. We don't offer that as a cluster with those pathways and courses, which I will address in a moment. But it does not mean that a student can't still take other courses that will help and support and prepare that student for government and public service. Go on to the next one, please, if you would. What you see here are the career options, is the career options page, page 6. The purpose, as you see, is to identify the job options and pathways, both the career pathways as well as the CTE pathway. In this case, a student who took a career assessment, and again, the career assessment allows more customization for a student. Some people might have received a career and college guide, a college and career guide, even if they had not taken an assessment. It is more general. But this, in this case, this student the sample student had taken the assessment, and it identifies 3 interests for that student. What you see here, what's highlighted is the hospitality and tourism and health sciences as the first 2 options that that assessment revealed about that student, where their interests are. This is very important. Spotlight has done an in-depth job in identifying what those students or what the resources for those students' interests are. So it comes from a national and regional information. So when it's talking about the jobs, the wages, annual and hourly, the education, as well as certification and degrees, that's critical in understanding how we best advise students. The information can easily be found where the students have taken their career assessments, and that is in nccareers.org as well as cfnc.org if you want to further study what this information is. Allow me to go to the next slide. What you see here at the next slide shows the clusters I mentioned before in more of that turquoise color. Those are the clusters, and below are particular pathways. So this is why it's critical. Once we identify perhaps what general area a student might most have demonstrated the most interest in, we can begin to focus more in on the pathway that might be best for that student, guided again with the counselor, the support of the counselor, and the career and college managers. So we look at those pathways, we look at those assessments. When the student is in 8th grade and preparing to go to 9th grade, we want to ensure that we've identified that as best as we can so we can begin to support that student. Does that mean that they have to stay on that pathway? No, it doesn't, but it does mean that when they took that assessment, that gave us some insight as to what their interest is and allows us to provide a more supportive environment for the advisement for that student. Let's go to, let me go back for a minute. On the first choice for that student was hospitality and tourism. So you see what's listed here. And then the second choice was health science career cluster. And you see that in the first column, the third cluster down, the health science career cluster. And you see all of those that are all of the pathways that are located in that cluster. So you see, this is where we start guiding the students. Ms. Benton, can you go to the next slide, please? The third interest for this student was information technology. And so it shows the 3, the hospitality, health science, and this being the third. And again, it gives that same interest or that same breakdown as to what that outlook looks like. When you go and click on the links, it tells you more of what the labor market data says about the outlook for that job. Is that job going to be around for a while? What's required? Some choices or selections or career assessments point to outcomes or salaries and wages that might start out high, even without a college education. And then there's some where you make an increased salary with more education. There are opportunities to identify which colleges offer academics associated with that cluster. And so what's important is to look at those colleges, and that's what's shown in each of those where it says colleges to consider. And then in the last one, it talks about those degrees and opportunities. So of those 3, in each of those 3 options is what you see. The career pathways, the CTE pathway is what I'm going to show you next. The data metrics is based on the student interest. And as I mentioned, all of this information comes from the research in not only Guilford County, but in North Carolina. And some of it also indicates what's shown from the state. Can you go to the next slide, please, Ms. Benton? So what you see, what we use in Guilford County schools This is a layout. For example, the third option was information technology for that student. A pathway in information technology is artificial intelligence. And so in that pathway, a student coming in from the 8th grade who had taken an assessment and showed an interest in information technology, this is one of the options in information technology that that student can consider. In 9th grade, beginning in the science principles, computer science principles, and going on to AI, artificial intelligence. Now, this shows also what is definitely preferred for students, and that is to have the work-based learning experience. We want our students to begin those work-based learning experiences like internships, apprenticeships, cooperative education, mentorships. We want them to begin those paid opportunities in their junior year. They have to be at least 16, but we want them to do that. Each pathway has an opportunity for students to connect to a business or an industry that allows them to get that experience and exposure prior to graduating and going into the workforce. But that comes after having focused in a particular area. You notice I mentioned cluster. I mentioned the pathways in that cluster. What you see up here also talks about a concentrator. A concentrator is a student who has taken, according to the Department of Public Instruction, that's ours, who we report to in the state, has taken at least 2 courses as required. In this particular case, 3 courses are required. The artificial intelligence 2, usually it's a level 2 course that's associated with it. And those students are concentrators. What does it mean to be a concentrator? It lets us know that that student is focused, and that's what we are preparing them to do. Can you go to the next slide, please? It's very, very important that we use these guides to research and plan and help prepare our students for as they come in from 8th grade throughout high school, but post-secondary. The labor market has a number of opportunities that are requiring particular credentials, certifications, levels of educations and exposure for our students. And so we want to ensure we send those students prepared for the post-secondary opportunities. So it is, while some students have received their career assessments, we want to ensure all students take the career assessments and take them as soon as possible if they have not already. If you have additional questions, of course, counseling, Ms. Benton and myself are prepared to assist.
Thank you all so much. This is the time if you have any questions. I know it was a lot of information, but it's some good information. And so we're here to answer any of your questions. So if you want to raise your hand or if you want to put your question in the chat, we will be more than happy to answer your question.
As far, I just want to make a general statement before we begin, as far as the delivery of the career and college guides concerning the 8th grade through 12th grade, because there's been some concerns with 9th through 12th grade not receiving theirs as well too. A lot of times you have to check it's at your students, in your students' GCS email, and a lot of times you have to check their spam because it a lot of, like the last time we did these career and college guides last semester, they weren't receiving them directly in their inboxes. But if you would check the spam, refresh, things of that nature, a lot of times it resolved itself and they popped up or magically appeared somehow. If not, for the high school, if you would contact your school counselor, they have the guides as well, and they will be able to get them to you. Send them to you directly if you have not received them. For the 8th grade, they just went out again, as Ms. Benton has stated this past week. They're not in Canvas inbox. No, they're in their direct email inbox, not in Canvas. And the way the company has set up, the company sent these out. We're not able to add emails to them. We're not able to add parent emails. We're not able to add anything of that nature to them. It's directly student emails because it came from our technology people who only have our GCS emails. They don't have personal emails. They couldn't add that. So the piece of adding parent emails to that, we are not able to do that. The company sent that information out as a courtesy to us, to the students. As far as the GCS email, your student has the GCS account. If Jennifer is a student, you have to access your student GCS email. If Jennifer, if you are a parent, then you have to get that information from your student. It's their login information. I'm assuming what they use to log in into their if they're on a GCS computer, if they were actually in the school building, what they will log on to it to utilize that. But again, the 8th grade information has been sent out. It will be sent to counselors tomorrow. So if you have not received that information, or if you tried to utilize all of that by the end of the week, you feel free to contact your school counselor as well in the 8th grade, and they will be able to assist you with getting an additional copy. Is it a third party? No, you must have a computer. Okay. But yes, but make sure that you contact your school counselor by the end of the week to get that information from them. Okay.
Okay, any more questions? Dr. Wilson, did we cover our questions?
I have the login information. They are not on the school computer. They're asking how to actually go to the email.
They can go under the GCS website and go under Office 365, and they should be able to access the student email from there.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Okay. So, and sorry, I got on this a little bit late, so you may have done this in the presentation. So for following the course guide instruction, I have a rising 8th into 9th grade for next year. We're still applying to the magnet and school choices. Should we wait to figure out the right path for them for registering for courses until we know which high school they're going to?
With the career guides, they're general, and it's always good still to have it because it gives you their career interests and their career options, whether they're in the magnet or whether they're into a traditional high school. So I think actually taking a look at it, because it just gives you more information even when they get to whether it's the magnet school or the traditional school, for the counselor to begin working with them on their 4-year plan.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yes.
When we go through the guide and, kind of pick out the courses, which counselor are we speaking with, the 8th grade or the 9th grade counselor?
Okay, that's a very good question. This year, because of COVID-19, we're doing something different. And so your student will be working with their current 8th grade counselor. That's who is going to be doing the 4-year plan with them. But effective next year, your student would be working, of course, with the high school counselor. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Are there any other questions?
I have a quick general question. I heard you mention in middle school, you do some assessments or some discussions of career. And so what grade, I'm Canadian. So what grade does that typically start?
Okay. Star, can you talk to them about the CTE program in middle school?
Yes, there are several courses that students will take when they are in middle school. They can request some, and others are they're allowed to take. That's the Family and Consumer Science course, the Technology Education course, a business course. And so those students are allowed to take that course, and that can help identify the interests of that student. But they are offered based on sometimes the schedule or sometimes the student's request. Isn't that right, Ms. Benton?
Yes.
Okay.
And so does that typically start when they go, like, do you have to be thinking about that? Because it's grade 6 that's middle school. And so do they need to be thinking about that from grade 5 to 6 when they're enrolling in the middle schools? Or is that something, once they're there, you guys discuss with them, and then it happens in 7, 8?
We begin, and earlier, I don't know if you had caught the slide when I said we start trying to have that conversation as early as possible. Even just exposure in elementary school, pre-K actually, but CTE begins to offer the courses in grades 6. But 5th grade is where we are very interested in being able to counsel and prepare that student for middle school and from middle school into high school. So when they walk into high school, we have a good idea as to how to best guide and advise that student.
Okay. So I should be paying much more attention maybe in 5th grade to their inbox, their email inbox. Is that right?
Well, I don't know about the email inbox, but definitely to what their interests are and exposing them as much as possible. But their email, that exchange, I don't know when that happens. I believe that starts happening when they are in middle school.
It does.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, are there any more questions? Unity, did we answer your question?